Hey guys, welcome back to another vlog type of video. This time to talk about virtual reality, which is something that I haven't really talked about in my channel a whole lot. And it's been a hot topic for the past few months, considering the some devices have already been released, such as the HTC Vive and I believe the Oculus Rift as well. And of course, we have the upcoming PlaStation VR coming out in October of this year. So actually, it's been a hot topic for the past few years, I would say, because ever since the Oculus Rift was first announced, there was a lot of excitement, around people just to see what the new technology will be like. And here we are in the gates of this technology finally hitting, I guess, in a mainstream way. Because there are some affordable devices such as the Samsung VR, which is, I think it goes for like $100. So you have all this range and different devices that are being tested and sold and being developed. So it's a new technology, so people are excited. And I thought I'd chime in because I actually got to demo two of these devices maybe 3 weeks ago. I was lucky enough to try the HTC Vive at a Microsoft store here at a local mall. I was actually doing some shopping because the Microsoft store had some pretty good deals on Xbox One games. So I went there to buy my games, and I noticed they had a demo booth for the HTC Vive device. So I figured nobody was there, the store was empty, so I was like, why not try it and give this HTC Vive a shot? And I have a picture here. That's kind of what the device looks like. I don't know if you guys can see it there. Pretty cool looking, and that's one of the demos that I was trying out. And yeah, the HTC Vive, I was excited. I always been interested in virtual reality. This is a little bit of my background, because growing up in the 90s, it was always something that it was looked as the future of video games, virtual reality. And at the time, there wasn't enough technology or advancements in technology to make this a somewhat of a affordable means of entertainment. And we had all these prototypes. I remember reading in magazines prototypes by different companies of different types of goggles or helmets that you could put on top of your head and experience virtual reality games. So there were some primitive attempts at virtual reality in the early 90s and mid 90s as well, and they were just never materialized because of the technology. And I remember being very interested, and I always wanted to try them. So fast forward many years to my adulthood, and I was finally able to put one of these guys in the goggles and try virtual reality. So the HTC Vive was the first one that I tried, like I said, 3 weeks ago. And the way that it was set up is they had a dedicated area for it, because the cool thing about the HTC Vive, and this is one of the advantages of that system, is that you can place sensors all across your room, and it will detect your movement, and you're basically in this confined virtual reality space. Whereas the PlaStation VR, it's more of a you can just sit down and play the games from there. You don't necessarily have to be standing up, or I don't think you can walk into the environment like you can with the HTC Vive. So of course that comes with a price point as well. The HTC Vive is like the Cadillac of virtual reality. It's the most expensive one. It's $800 for retail, and it comes with all the sensors, the controllers and everything. But it's a very steep price point of entry, considering you need a pretty good computer or PC to run it. So all in all, if I were to buy an HTC Vive, I will also have to upgrade my computer or get a new one, and it'll be an investment of $2,000 at the very least. So I'm not in that position to spend that much money. And but nevertheless, I tried the HTC Vive there in the store, and I was excited. My first time trying a virtual reality device, because the Virtual Boy doesn't count, as we all know it. And they had a demo in which it was like an underwater. It wasn't a video game or anything, just like a demo where you can just look around, and it was pretty awesome, because you were at the bottom of the sea in this like stranded or abandoned ship, and you could look up and down, and if you look up, you can see like the water ceiling with the sun rays coming in through the water, and then you can look behind you, you can walk in the deck of this, sunken ship. And you can see, all kinds of, turtles, fishes, just doing their thing. And at one point in the demo, this huge whale comes in, near the ship. And it's pretty cool because I guess it does feel real because, everything is scaled properly. You can see this huge whale. It's like the actual size of it. So it's really cool because it's almost like you'll never experience something like that, or I don't have the money to go on an expedition and pay to go under the water and do that kind of stuff. But with VR, it's very simple. It's you buy the demo or you experience the demo and you get to see all these cool things. Now, granted, obviously the graphics are not photorealistic or anything like that. They were all 3D animations, obviously, but it's very immersive and it was pretty damn cool. Now the second demo on the HTC Vive was almost like a paint program, like think of Mario Paint, for example, where you can select your brush types and you can just draw in space, basically. So I picked like this neon marker and I wrote my name, and the guy was like, now walk around your name. The guy from the Microsoft store, he was like, walk around your name, and you can actually walk around and see your name just floating there in this 3D model, and it's incredibly detailed. And then I changed the brush type to paper. It was just one of the styles, and I drew and in space, and the strings of paper that were just floating there without moving, and you can walk up to the paper you just drew, and there you can see like the texture. It's incredibly realistic. The lighting effects, everything was really, really amazing. And again, it's not a game, but just a very cool, I guess, demo piece to showcase what the true potential of virtual reality is. And the final demo was indeed a video game, a very simplistic shooter game in which you have the two controllers that act as weapons. The two controllers have triggers on them. And it was pretty cool. It was this like space game where these little robots were like just flying and shooting at you. And a way to avoid or dodge their bullets was to actually move in this confined space that was dedicated to their demo floor. And it was pretty cool because at first I wasn't moving. It was just my mentality of old school gamer, just being at one place and shooting people, or the little robots. And I was doing good until a lot of them started shooting at me, and I wasn't moving, so I was getting hit, and I saw the game over screen basically. But I tried it again, and then of course, if you want to dodge their bullets, you have to actually move out of the way, kind of like do like a Matrix type of situation there. And it's pretty fun because it's very, very accurate. There are shots, you can see them coming somewhat slowly. It's not like, super fast or anything. So as you see the shots approaching, there was one instance where I turned around and the shot was like literally right next to me. So I dodged the laser beam from the robot, and I just saw the laser beam scraping my shoulder, and it was not detected as a hit. I don't know how that happened, but I don't know what technology or how the sensors work in this game, but it did not detect my body, which is pretty accurate. It just it scraped my shoulder basically. And then of course, the game got harder and I got hit because you have to be turning around 360 degrees at all times to see where the lasers are coming from. And I thought it was a really cool experience. That's how my HTC Vive experience ended. So I was very surprised by the technology, but at the same time, there were other things that worried me a little bit. One of them was the HTC Vive being the Cadillac, the most expensive one. The graphics did not necessarily impress me a ton, and I noticed there was a little bit of blurriness on my as I was experiencing all these demos. There was a little bit of a blurriness in the vision itself. So I thought, well, maybe this is something related to you have to adjust the settings, the brightness of the thing. The guy at the Microsoft store, he just plopped that thing on the top of my head, adjusted it as far as for the thing not being loose or anything like that. And off I went. We did not spend time, tweaking the brightness or the contrast or anything else. So I thought maybe there's some kind of menu or configuration that will allow you to tweak or focus a little bit more. But overall, I was very impressed. Not to the point of, buying a Vive unit and spending $800, but I thought it was a pretty cool deal. And just a few days after that, I was washing my car basically, and I got a text message from Leo here on YouTube, the Funny Nerd, and he sent me a picture. Hey, I'm at Best Buy right now trying the PlaStation VR, and I was like, well, I'm right next to a Best Buy right now, having my car washed. I think I'm gonna stop by, even though I did check previously because they announced, PlayStation announced having several demos at different Best Buys during a certain weekend. And I remember checking my location, and my local Best Buy was not within those selected locations with the demo booths. But since Leo sent me that, I was like, might as well. I'm right across the street from Best Buy. I'm gonna stop by and check out to see if they have the VR booth. And sure enough, they had one, even though it wasn't advertised on their website. And there was only one guy in there, so perfect. I did not have to wait a ton, and I saw the guy was playing the tank game. I don't know what the name of it is, but it's basically like a first-person tank game where you control the tank and you have to shoot other tanks. The graphics were very underwhelming, and I'm saying this because you can see what the person is playing on a TV. So even though you don't have that immersion, you can actually see what that person is seeing on his virtual goggle or device. So the graphics were pretty underwhelming, but again, it's still very early in the technology, and these are like small games. They're not like AAA major budget types of games, so it's understandable. But it looked fun, but not to the point where I would try it, because you were supposed to only pick one demo or game at the PlayStation booth. So I was like, okay, I already saw what the tank game looks like. I'm gonna try something different. So finally, it came to my turn, and I was a little bit worried before I tried the PlaStation VR, because my previous experience just a few days ago was with the HTC Vive, which is again, it's the Cadillac, the granddaddy of the virtual reality systems. And I thought, well, I wasn't super impressed with the graphics of the HTC Vive, so I was like, man, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be disappointed by what the PlaStation VR actually will offer. Especially after watching that guy playing the tank game, the graphics were very, very primitive. It's pretty obvious that the focus of that game is the gameplay itself, not the graphics really. So I was a little bit worried, but nevertheless, it was a free demo, so why not try? And the one game that I asked the PlayStation, the Sony rep there for a recommendation, and he said most people like this Eve Valkyrie game, which is like a futuristic spaceship or shooter type of game. So I was like, yeah, let's try that one. It's supposed to be the best. And one thing I noticed immediately with the PlayStation VR is that it's much more easier to put it over your head. It's much easier to adjust it. The HTC Vive works with like this strings that you have to pull to make it tighter on your head, whereas the PlayStation VR has this very easy button that you press and you can bring the visor closer or farther away from your eyes, and it's just a much better built and more comfortable device almost, which is surprising considering it's half the cost of an HTC Vive. So that was a one plus right out of the gate for the PlayStation VR. And another thing that I noticed is that when that guy was playing the demo, the guy before me, is that he was sitting down. So all these demos were sitting down, which makes sense because, as I mentioned before, the HTC Vive has sensors that you can place across your room that allow you to walk inside the game, basically, whereas the PlayStation VR doesn't have that capability, as far as I'm concerned. So I was just sitting, which is fine. I was sitting in this chair in front of the TV. The guy put the goggles on me, and he loaded the Eve Valkyrie game. I think that's what it was called. And right out the gate, I was impressed because I thought, man, the graphics are gonna suck. It's gonna be like the tank game, but quite the opposite actually. The graphics for this Eve Valkyrie game were much more realistic, much more bigger budget, basically, more detailed, and it's really cool that the prep part of the game where you're sitting on your ship and then you're getting all these instructions from your commander, loading missiles or whatever, and you can look around in the ship, you can see all the buttons, all the knobs and triggers and everything. If you look down at your crotch area, if you will, you can see your legs, and you have this uniform, this pilot uniform, which is pretty cool. And then you can look up, down, and you're in this tunnel, preparing for takeoff, basically. So you have all this prep work, prepare for takeoff, and you see all these lights and everything, and it just brings the immersion. It prepares the immersion very well. And then you take off, and you see the speed, flying through the tunnel, and then finally going out into the open air. And your mission is just to take a few enemies down. You basically have to follow them and take some enemies down. You have some allies that help you as well. But as you're flying, you can look freely up, down. You can see your cockpit. You can see what's going on behind you, on top of you, and it's really, really, really cool. And the graphics were surprisingly pretty good for being a half the cost game for a device that is half the cost. So I was pretty impressed at that. And one thing that really worried me about virtual reality in general was the motion sickness. I would never buy I set myself a rule that I would never buy a VR device before I actually tried one, because I know there's a lot of people that are prone to motion sickness, and they try, and within minutes they get motion sick and they start feeling like nauseous and things like that. So there's no point in spending $400, $500, $800 on a device that you won't be able to use if you get motion sick. So I was very worried about that. Thankfully, the HTC Vive put that on the side for me. At least I did not get dizzy with those games. But with the Eve Valkyrie game, with the right thumbstick on your DualShock 4, you can roll. You can basically do a barrel roll. and I was like, I'm gonna try this because you can use that to get through tight spaces or to roll out of the way and things like that. That's the one part where I got motion sick really quick. So I just did one barrel and I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm not gonna do this again, because I basically turned my ship into 360 degrees in its own axis, and the view obviously did a complete turn, and that got me motion sick like that. But I only did one, and then I stopped, and everything else was normal. So looking around and going up and down, turning left and right with your ship, everything was fine. It was just the barrel roll motion that really made me motion sick, and yeah, that was pretty cool. And then you have the enemies, you have to dodge fight them, kill the enemies, you can shoot missiles, you can shoot your lasers and whatever. And it was a pretty fun demo. Unfortunately, if I had to cite some cons or negative things about it, is that the blurriness was there again. So when I finished the demo, I thanked the PlaStation guy, and I went to check some games and amiibos at Best Buy. And then I went back to ask him about the blurriness, ask him about if there's a setting that you can maybe adjust, because to make things worse, I thought the PlaStation VR was a little bit more blurry than the HTC Vive. So I went back to the booth, the PlaStation booth, and I asked the guy, and the guy was like, I'm not really sure. And since there was nobody there, he was like, do you want to try another demo and maybe see if another game has the same issue? Or maybe we can go through the settings and see if we can figure it out. And I was like, sure, I'll play it again. And we sat down, we went through the settings, and there was nothing like focus related. There was a brightness setting where you can adjust the brightness of the screen itself. But yeah, that was about it. And it was still blurry, and the guy made sure he cleaned the lenses twice. Maybe that had something to do with it. Sometimes maybe when they rub that little towel, that will make the lenses a little bit more blurry. I don't know what it is, but both the HTC Vive and the PSVR were a little bit blurry. And unfortunately, I've read a lot of people that express the same thing. So it seems like it's mostly related to the resolution of the screen that's within the goggles, which is a little bit disappointing because those screens supposedly don't have very good resolution, and you can tell that while you are not wearing the goggles and you're looking at the TV. The games actually look pretty crisp on the TV itself, but when you put the goggles, everything becomes very blurry. Or I shouldn't say very blurry, but it's very noticeable. And to the point that, I was trying to go through the settings and finding out what was wrong, but by reading posts in Reddit, NeoGAF, and I was talking to Leo, who also tried the demo. There is a blurriness, and I believe the lower resolution screens within the goggles are what are doing that, which is unfortunate. But the second time around, I did a demo, it was the underwater demo for the PlaStation VR. It's not a game; you just have to sit down and enjoy the demo. And it was pretty cool. You go under the water in this cage. You look at the fishes and everything, and then you have sharks attacking your your cage, which was I don't want to say it's scary because it's fake, but it was definitely fun. I was with a smile on my face the whole time, just watching these sharks trying to eat me basically while I was in this cage underwater. So that was pretty cool. And that was the end of the demo. So I ended up walking with a very good impression of the virtual reality technology itself. And my stance on this was I'm not gonna get this on day one. I'm just gonna wait for prices to drop. But now I'm like, there's a high probability that I will probably look into getting these things on day one. And I'm talking about the PlaStation VR, obviously, because it's the most affordable one. I already have a PS4, so I don't need anything else. And thankfully, the pre-orders for those things are sold out. Otherwise, because I was really hyped, I would have made a pre-order right there with the Sony rep at the booth. But the guy was like, yeah, everything is sold out. It's sold out within minutes. So it was a relief in a way, because it'll give me time to think about this, because talking about the negative things of the PlaStation VR, one of them is, of course, the blurriness. And I'm afraid that if you're an early adopter of this technology, PlayStation will probably release a 0.5 version, maybe 2 years after the release of this one, making your initial purchase I don't want to say useless, but there will always be a better upgrade, which is that's the risk of buying these things at an early stage. And we can see that happening now with the PS4 and the Xbox One. They have the Scorpio coming out. We have the PS4K coming out. So a lot of uncertainty because these companies are cranking technology left and right and releasing them more frequently than before. So a little bit of that risk factor in buying the first iteration of the VR goggles, and maybe later on, immediately there will be some kind of upgrade, but who knows? So that's one thing, the uncertainty. And then the other thing was the other thing that I'm kind of worried. It's the games. For example, that underwater demo was really cool, and it's a perfect way to bring friends or family over, have them put the VR goggles. I'm sure everybody's gonna have a blast. But the problem is, after you play that once, there's really no incentive of going back. There's very little replay value. Maybe playing that demo 2 or 3 times will suffice to experience everything, because you may want to play a second time around so you can look other things that you think you missed during your first playthrough. So these are short demos that last 10 minutes. So I'm a little bit concerned about the pricing. Like, for example, that water demo, how much will it cost for a developer? What will the cost be of a 10-minute experience? Will it be, if it's $5 or maybe $10, I guess? I don't know. Like me personally, I don't want to pay more than $5. But I know in order to develop that, it'll probably cost a ton. So in order for the developer to make money and a profit, they will probably have to sell that for, I don't know, 20 bucks maybe. I don't know, like 15 bucks. I'm not really sure how that'll work. And I know there's a lot of small demos coming out. Like they have the Batman Arkham demo. They have that Final Fantasy, which is kind of like a short game and demo. So you have all these bite-sized experiences that are very, very short. But my concern is the price and the replay value, obviously, because once you experience that, there's very little motivation going back to those demos. So that's another concern that I have, which I think it's valid. And the third one and the biggest one is, I can safely say that these devices are not for an extended use, in the sense that after I tried the PlaStation VR, I did the Valkyrie demo, and then I did the underwater demo. After I walked out of there, I could feel I was a little bit tired. Like my eyes they had a little bit of strain. I had a little bit of eye strain. Strain, and also I was a little bit dizzy, a little bit disoriented, like, when you walk out of a plane, if you're in a long flight. It's nothing terrible, nothing like you're gonna stumble and fall on the floor or anything like that, but I could tell that I was a little bit dizzy, a little bit, I guess, affected by the VR thing. So my take from all of this is that you won't, or me personally at least, I won't be able to play this thing for more than an hour. Which, if there are games that are really cool and you want to keep playing, that could be a problem. And I'm gonna dare say, actually an hour is probably a lot. I would say that maybe 20 to 45 minutes will probably be the sweet spot of playing these things before you start getting a little bit dizzy, or your eyes start becoming straining or anything like that. So that's another negative thing. So I do have a lot to think about from here to October. I do have to say that I was against getting these things on day one, but now I'm leaning towards that idea heavily. So I know it's expensive. They have just the regular bundle. It's $400. As you guys can see here, and then they have a $500 bundle which comes with 2 Move controllers and a game. I already have 1 Move controller, but I think some games require 2, so I may have to go for the big bundle. And then here you can see some of the early or release date games that are going to come out for that thing. So I don't know, guys. I'm excited for it. I think I'm gonna have a wait and see approach. Maybe I'll wait until the end of the year to see if during the holiday season or Black Friday there are some deals, but I really doubt it because there's a lot of excitement just based on the pre-orders themselves. I think GameStop, Amazon, and Best Buy, all three ran out of pre-orders for the PlaStation VR. So I'm not really sure how many units Sony allocated towards the release day. Maybe they don't have many units. That's why it ran out pretty quick. Or maybe there's just a genuine excitement on behalf of gamers out there to try this thing out. But whatever it is, I was very impressed, and overall I think I'm gonna get one of these sooner than later, because I was very impressed and it's very immersive, and I cannot wait to see what other games and what other improvements the developers can do with the technology. So yeah, that's it for now, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think about VR, if you guys have tried it or if you're excited about it. Let me know in the comment section. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all later.